Thank you, sir. Historically, for centuries, we all know India has been a place full of resources and large volume of population. But with all the resources, what is the difference that is holding us behind all the developed nations? At one stage we were called underdeveloped country, and thereafter we changed to call into a developing economy, and the future says we are going to be one of the most developed economies. Infrastructure. Infrastructure is one major element which is separating all the developed nations from the underdeveloped nations or the developing nations, and India is no exception at all. Today I confine my discussion about infrastructure to the e-education system and not on the other front. We are at a threshold of e-revolution. ICT is the buzzword in education world globally, not just India. India with 47% of population under the age of 20 needs education more than anybody else in the world. Shortage of faculty across the country, inadequate schools, shortage of colleges, universities. All these just go to say we need e-education more than anybody else. Professor Khan was saying HRD has committed 2,000 crore rupees for content creation. But are we ready for this revolution in the education? You talk to any student, you talk to any parent, most of them would say they want to study technology. Everybody wants to study technology. But how much of technology are we really using it in our education, for our education, is a big question that needs to be addressed. The intent of technologies, lot of electronic gadgets, computers, tablets, whatnot, facilitate all these things. But how far are we, or how close are we from achieving this dream of e-education percolating to the ground levels, to all corners of the country? You go to a school in any part of the country, they all claim they have a computer lab, and this is a major marketing tool preferred by most parents and students over a playground. So if you don't have a computer lab, you don't have a saleable commodity. You don't have students coming in. But are these schools really using this technology for education? The curriculum of maybe the CBSE or some state boards has got HTML coding at 9th or 10th class. What is it that the students of 9th or 10th class going to learn with 2 or 3 HTML programs? Is it going to be of any use for them? How far are they going to carry it from there? These schools possibly would like to use their computer labs for the betterment of students, for delivering e-education and so on. But where are all these computers? Do we have the electricity to run these computers? And finally, do we have the internet in each and every corner of the country to make these things happen? Thanks to this electronic revolution across the world, prices of computers are drastically dropping. Government of India is encouraging the use of Akash tablets, and several other areas and initiatives of the industry could push this initiative forward, with prices substantially dropping from on a day-to-day basis. I'll come to the third point here. Last year, or earlier this year, in the Pravasi Bharat Divas, I was hearing to Mr. Sam Petroda talking about the resolve of Government of India to take internet and broadband connectivity to each and every corner of the country. Surely, yes, we are seeing this happen with the mobiles going everywhere to every corner. I would say mobiles are more mobile than moving faster than anything else, except maybe our thoughts. So this internet accessibility in each corner could be a reality, and it's going to happen. But do we have the power to power the computers that we are talking about? And on a 1 to 10 priority scale, if you were to look at allocations of funds or the power, what is the one, where does education stand? Where does primary education stand? And primary education being the foundation of the entire future of a child, do we get anywhere there? Just to share something which happened an hour back, a friend of mine who was aware that I was coming to Ahmedabad called me at 10 in the morning. He says, "What time is your presentation today?" I said, "Around something between 11:30 and 1 o'clock. "Sorry boss, between 11 and 4 we don't have electricity in this place." And he's coming from no small place there in Visakhapatnam, which is the second largest place in the state of Andhra Pradesh. We all know, we all agree that investment in education is investment for the future. Great leaders have studied under the street lights, under the, maybe powered by oil in those days. Just to name a few, possibly Lal Bahadur Shastri. I understand even our ex-president Dr. Kalam also has studied under street lamps as a child. None of them really wanted the next generations to go through the same phase. And I am sure all of us sitting in this place would also not like that to happen to our next generations. But how close are we to achieving this dream? Empowering rural India has been a slogan for successive governments ever since we attained independence way back in 1947. How much has that been actually achieved? Power, which is the main source of infrastructure, not being available in several villages across the country even date. How is it possible? This is where we thought renewable energy, which is the nature's free gift, should really be brought into use in an extensive way. We are not talking about a 5 megawatt solar power plant that I was reading in newspapers the other day is being implemented in the state of Gujarat, or a 10 megawatt wind farm set up in Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. No. I'm talking about small scale, standalone systems set up on every rooftop of every school or an education institution. It is not a huge investment. It can be as low as 1 kilowatt of a solar power or in 1 kilowatt of a wind power as well, which is going to power these computers for the schools. When we are talking on the sidelines, which is a big talk across the world, carbon emissions, increasing global warming, and all these things taken together, when we are really going into a renewable energy based computer labs for the schools or for any education institution for matter, automatically the problem of global warming is resolved, at least to some extent. Let's make a beginning here and work towards an everlasting solution. Thank you.